Welcome to this week's 5 Minute Friday. I am Dr. Jen Miller, and this week we are going to focus on extra credit. Within these last few weeks of school, we are going to encounter more and more of those situations where students say, I need to raise my grade. Can I please have extra credit? You know what I'm talking about. They're going to want to do everything they can as a Hail Mary to get that work done and get their grades raised. What is our answer in this situation? Can I please have extra credit? The answer is no. You may not have extra credit. That doesn't mean that there is no hope for students, but extra credit does not mean that students understand the content. Our grades need to be rooted in student understanding and demonstration of that understanding of content. So extra credit equals extra work for you and also for the student, but it does not mean higher rigor, and it does not show a demonstration of understanding on the student's behalf. So what can we do? What we can do is reassess student understanding of content. I always say the consequence for not doing the work is doing the work, and the consequence for not learning it the first time is learning it again. So while I would not recommend that you give your students more work, if they are missing work within the semester, give them the opportunity to do that work and get those grades that they are missing if you're counting those formative work in your grade book. Another option here is to assess students on the areas that they were weak in earlier within the semester. So for example, if you gave an assessment that was earlier in the year, and let's say they did poorly on that test, you can reassess students. That could be verbally, that could be on a quiz, on those concepts and see if they have demonstrated greater understanding as the year has progressed. Remember, it's important that students learn it, not how quickly they learn it. So if they can show a demonstration at a higher level later within the semester, you can adjust their grades accordingly. We don't need to take an average of students' grades over time, but we do need to represent their understanding of each content standard at the current moment in time. So feel free to leverage those options as alternative ways to help students help themselves with their grades within your discretion. One final option here is to also look at the Mastery Connect data for each standard. You have the tracker data that is standards aligned for every single essential standard within your course if you have Mastery Connect data. So when you look at the average of all of those Mastery Connect scores, right, for each standard, you can see if they were exemplary or if they were proficient. Your grade in your grade book should not be lower than their level of proficiency within that Mastery Connect. Because we're just looking at student demonstration of understanding. So you can also use that as an additional data point if you'd like to take a look at that in comparison with your student grades. I would recommend you look at the breakdown on the grading for understanding rubric that I've added right here. And that way you can see if your grades in the gradebook are aligned with the A, B, C, D, F values within that grading for understanding rubric to ensure that we are removing any things like taking too long to learn. And of course, if you have any behavior grades, right, if you've taken enough points for late work or tardiness, those should be removed because we don't grade behaviors, we only grade content knowledge. So those are just things to keep in mind as we wrap up the year so that you can help your students understand their options and you don't overwork yourself by grading a whole bunch of unnecessary, unfruitful extra credit. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday.